currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during Welcome to the Access Live Event Conference Center. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question, press star 3 at any time during the event. Please note this call may be monitored, recorded, or rebroadcast. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. The Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. Access Live event is currently in music hold and will start momentarily. If you would like to ask a question during the event, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time.
Good evening and welcome to Congressman Welch's statewide telephone town hall meeting on the coronavirus pandemic. Peter will be on the line momentarily. He'll begin by making brief remarks and then open it up for your questions. We will also hear opening remarks from Senators Patrick Leahy and Bernie Sanders, and Vermont Secretary of Commerce and Community Development Lindsay Curley, and Darcy Carter from the Small Business Administration Vermont office. If you would like to ask a question, just press star 3 on your phone. Again, if you would like to ask Peter a question, just press star 3 at any time during the call. Finally, if you'd like to receive Peter's e-newsletter, you can press 1 at any time during the call and we'll add you to our list. Thank you for joining the call. Peter and the other guests will be on the call in just a moment as we wait for more Vermonters to join.
Good evening. This is Congressman Peter Welch, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Senator Patrick Leahy and Senator Bernie Sanders. And the purpose of this call, as you know, is to discuss the coronavirus outbreak means to Vermont, especially what funds are available to get through the economic challenge, the brutal economic challenge that this is inflicting on our state and on our nation. It's really quite astonishing, but only a couple of weeks ago, we had the lowest unemployment rate nearly in our history, and within 2 weeks, we have 10 million unemployment claims. And it's all a result of the fact that this pandemic, and we have not had such a pandemic literally in 100 years, this is a once-in-a-century event, requires for our health and safety of ourselves and the people we love that we social distance. And the consequence of social distancing is layoffs. It's almost shutting down, slowing down dramatically the economy. So many Vermonters who went to work 1 week, the next day found out that the business was closed. We went from having in 1 week about 400 claims for unemployment to the next week having 17,000 claims. And to try to address the economic consequence and to help folks get through the impact of this, Congress has passed a $2 trillion economic aid stabilization plan called the CARES Act. And we want to go through what the benefits are and how you can get them. And essentially, it involves the $1,200 checks that you've heard about. Anyone whose income is $75,000 or less would receive that. It allows for extended unemployment of up to 4 months, with the federal government adding $600 on top of the unemployment benefits you'd be entitled to receive in Vermont. And for our small businesses that are hurt so hard by this shutdown, it provides, through the Small Business Administration, an economic disaster loan that is supposed to be made available in three days of $10,000, and that to be turned into a grant. In other words, it does not have to be paid back. And then for some small businesses, and Administrator Carter will talk about this, they can get assistance that can be turned into a grant to maintain payroll and pay expenses associated with the business. As the goal we have is to help individuals and families get through this when the reason they're not working is because they're complying with the public health order, which is to stay home. And the whole point of the assistance to small business is to try to help them get through this. So when we are on the other side of the virus, they'll be back, ready to go to work, and able to hopefully make our economy strong. But the hardship is enormous. The reason the three of us are together, Patrick, Bernie, and me, is because we want to assure every Vermonter that our job, first and foremost, is to do every single thing we can to help answer your questions and to help have you get access to what you need. And we're working as well, hand in glove with Governor Scott in his administration. And the governor, of course, has primary responsibility for making the decisions about health and safety measures. And we, your congressional delegation, have fundamental responsibility to have the federal government be the economic backstop for you and also for our state and our hospitals. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Senator Leahy. Senator Leahy, as you know, is the vice chair of our Appropriations Committee in the Senate and has played a major role in the writing of the CARES legislation. Senator Leahy, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Peter, and I enjoyed before we went on talking with you and Bernie about this, but I want to thank you for organizing this town hall meeting. It's, I think we all agree, none of us in our lives ever saw anything like this, such a difficult time. And I hear that every single day. I hear it from Vermonters who are contacting my office or calling me, friends and neighbors. I hear about the guidance of shelter in place. And I got to tell you on a personal basis, Marcel and I miss our direct contact with our children and our grandchildren and with our Vermont friends and neighbors. When it comes to a crisis, like Irene always shown, the Vermonters united, we're strong. We'll get through this somehow together. Look at firms like Vermont Glove, in business for a century. They're retooling to make surgical masks, and the White House, in the next few minutes, will send out a directive. They want everybody to wear masks when they go out. But it means we have to work across party or regional lines. Of course, Peter and Bernie and I always work closely together for Vermont, but we're also working closely with our governor, with Governor Scott, with the leaders in our state legislature, community leaders, business leaders, health leaders across the state. I'll make sure that Vermont has a seat at the table. I met online and by phone with my Republican counterpart, the chairman of the Appropriations Committee today. We were able to turn around last time a proposal by the president and Senator McConnell for a bill which everybody agreed was a corporations first plan. We turned it into a families and workers first. And I applaud the fact that every single Republican, every single Democrat voted for it. And I think I know we're going to need another emergency coronavirus relief package, and we're working on that right now, so that any information or thoughts that Vermonters have, please email me, contact my office, make sure we get it. And I know Peter and Bernie and I we continue to work together, and we'll compile resources, we'll talk to each other, see what's best. And lastly, I can tell you what three of us know. We know this from the bottom of our hearts. Vermont will come through this. We'll come through it together, and we'll come through it strong. That's what Vermonters are.
Thank you, Senator Leahy. Senator Sanders?
Thank you, Peter, for organizing this town meeting. And Pat, thank you very much for the great work you did in the Senate, and Peter, that you've done in the House. I may just reiterate what both Peter and Patrick have said. We are looking at a moment in history that none of us have ever believed to be possible. It's never happened before. This is an unprecedented moment. We have a pandemic, which will take many, many lives in this country. And we have an economic collapse right now. I think Peter and Patrick were mentioning 10 million applications for unemployment in a 2-week period. Many, many, many times greater than has ever been seen in the history of this country. And there are estimates that some 30 or 40 million people will lose their jobs in this crisis. And as Congressman Welch was mentioning, we went from 400 applications for unemployment to 17,000 in a week, and that is just unbelievable. I just want to say two things. Number one, I know that there are many people in Vermont who feel a little bit guilty about applying for some of these benefits that are in this program. Please do not. You have paid taxes your entire life, and this is exactly what taxes are for. You pay taxes for the education of your kids, for police service, for fire service. And right now, this country is in a national emergency, and this is your tax dollars at work in a way that it should be at work. And as I think you've heard, among many other provisions in this very long bill, there will be a significant expansion of unemployment. And I want everybody to know that what we have done, and Senator Leahy and Congressman Welch played a great role in this. People who previously were not eligible for unemployment, people in the gig economy, for example, part-time workers, are now eligible for unemployment. And you just have to find out if you are eligible. A lot more people are eligible. The unemployment program will be extended an additional 13 weeks. And as Senator Leahy and Congressman Welch pointed out, on top of the normal unemployment check that one would receive for a 4-month period, there will be an additional $600. So something that we all fought very, very hard to get. There'll be significant benefits through the small businesses SBA, and we also making sure that every family in America will get that $1,200 and $500 for children. And just recently, we managed to make sure that people on Social Security do not have to apply for that benefit; they will get it directly. So I think what the three of us are trying to do now is to make sure that this very long $2 trillion bill, hundreds of pages, that it is implemented as effectively and rapidly as possible. The people get the benefits they need as quickly as possible. This is a federal-state relationship. I've been on the phone with the head of the SBA, with the Secretary of Labor, just to make sure that the money gets out as quickly as possible and gets into the hands of people who need it. So just let me conclude. Anybody out there hesitating about taking advantage of this, this is your money. You've paid taxes your entire life. You're entitled to what is in this program. Please take advantage of it. Peter, thanks again for organizing this town meeting.
Thank you, Bernie. And now I want to open this up for the Secretary of the Agency of Development and Community Affairs in the Scott administration, Lindsay Curley. And I want to thank her for the very hard work she's doing and the governor's office is doing. Secretary Curley?
Thank you, Congressman Welch, and to the entire Vermont congressional delegation. We're very grateful for the hard work that you've done and continuing to help Vermonters. As you all mentioned, this is an unprecedented time. It's very, very difficult for Vermonters. It's very difficult to look around and see our friends and families losing jobs and the impact that this health crisis is having on the economy. That being said, our goal is to save lives and keep our loved ones healthy and safe, and so we're all going to do what we can to get through this. And as Senator Leahy said, we will come out on the other side. We will be Vermont strong. So my goal right now, the charge that our agency, the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, has is to be sure that we are getting access out there to Vermonters in terms of these federal dollars through the CARES Act, but also just really making a really simple landing page for all Vermonters, whether you're an individual, you're an employer, or you're a community. If you come to the accd.vermont.gov website, you should be able to access the various opportunities you have in terms of resources. So if you're an individual and you click on the individual page, you will be directed, if you've lost your job, you will be directed to the unemployment insurance program. I think Senator Sanders mentioned, that this was opened up as well to folks in the gig economy, self-employed. So same thing, encouraging folks to go there and get signed up for this benefit. Also, we on the employer side, we're making sure that we're helping folks understand more about the payroll protection plan as well as the economic injury disaster loan. And again, our job is to really drive people to where the resources are. So I can't thank Darcy Carter, who you'll hear from after me, enough. She's been a great partner in all this. She's the expert in helping to lift this. A lot of this, is on her shoulders, and as well as our local lenders to help lift some of these and get people money quickly. And the third part is, we will be seeing, I think it's $4.7 million through community development block grants. So we're awaiting some guidance on that. But again, for communities, it's a place we're trying to help them understand how they can go about signaling how they could use some help in their communities specific to this emergency. And other than that, our team we're a resource. We want to help employers, individuals get through this and be ready to rebuild when this is behind us and this is in our rearview mirror. So thank you for asking me to participate.
Well, thank you, Secretary Curley. And now the administrator in charge of the Vermont office of the Small Businesses Administration, who will be really, really important in helping our small businesses get access to the funds in the CARES Act. Darcy Carter, thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Welch, and also to Senator Leahy, Senator Sanders, and Secretary Curley. Good evening to everybody. We want you to know at SBA we are here locally in Vermont. You can call us and you can email us, and many of you have, and please keep doing that. We want to help break it down for you, what's available. And there are two primary programs that are something you should consider. Both of them, actually, they both have a lot of good benefits to them. One is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program that we call EIDL. You've probably heard about that already. And this one has a really great feature as part of it where you can get up to $10,000 when you apply that is converted to a grant. And you don't need to know how that all happens behind the scenes, but that is the absolute fabulous feature in this loan program. It's a direct loan from SBA. So you don't go to your bank for this one. You go right to SBA at our website, sba.gov, and you will be able to click on the application. It's very streamlined, and then you will get a call from our Office of Disaster Assistance. They'll ask you for a little bit more information, and away you go. And once they make a decision to approve your loan, that's when those 3 days kick in, and you will get the funding from the Treasury. So that's the EIDL program, and we encourage you to take a look at that with us. The other one is the Paycheck Protection Program Loan, and this is a marvelous program where an employer who's either had to lay their folks off or they're retaining them, and it's been challenging due to the loss of revenues. So this is an opportunity to get a loan to cover all of those payroll expenses for 8 weeks, and includes more than just the wages. And after you have brought your people back or retained them for that 8-week period, you can get that amount of money that you borrowed forgiven completely. And for this program, you go to your bank or your credit union. You might have a micro lender, or you might work with Vita in Vermont. Many, many different lenders are going to be engaged in providing this loan to you. So we encourage you. We're going to have a link on our website to find lenders in the state, but you can always call us and email us. We will get right back to you. We're right here in Vermont, and we know how hard it is. So we want to make sure you take advantage of both of these programs. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you. Now let's open up the line for your questions. Remember, if you would like to ask a question, press *3 at any time during this call. Our first question is from Brenda from Paulet. Go ahead, Brenda.
Hi. Hello?
Go ahead, Brenda.
Yes, I was wondering if you, with disability, do you lend, or do we get a check from you guys to help us?
Yes, you do. You do get it.
Is that automatically deposited, or is it sent to us?
If you have I believe that will be sent automatically deposited. The Treasury is working on that. If you don't file tax returns, but you're receiving disability, and the Treasury has your direct deposit account, then you will have that deposited in your account. But you are eligible for the $1,200 check, Brenda. So thank you.
Thank you, Brenda, for your question. Our next question is from Terry from Worcester. Go ahead, Terry.
Hello. My question is, I'm a self-employed landscape design build contractor, and now that we cannot be working out on job sites and being self-employed, I know Secretary Curley gave a website. Where do what's the next step? Should I go to the state unemployment office? What are my options? Thanks for taking my question.
Administrator Carter, can you answer that? I think you might be the best to do that.
We'll definitely.
Go ahead, Darcy.
Oh no, I think you might be better. But anyway, you would be eligible for either of the programs that I mentioned, the EIDL or the Paycheck Protection Program, and I believe you're eligible for unemployment as well. But Secretary Curley, would you want to answer that part?
Yes. So I would encourage you to go ahead and sign up for the unemployment insurance benefit, and and also apply for the loans. Obviously, there's going to be, I imagine that you wouldn't be able to be forgiven for the payroll protection loan if you're using it to pay yourself if you're also receiving the unemployment benefit. So, I'm guessing there will be some prevention for receiving both. But if I were you, I would set that in motion to apply for both. Again, just to make it really easy, if you go to accd.vermont.gov, you'll see the COVID-19 help for businesses and individuals. Click on that, and it will take you right to where you need to go to link up to both avenues.
Yeah, and I just want to add that point that Senator Sanders made. This program is to help self-employed people. There's a lot of Vermonters who have a pickup truck and they plow driveways in the winter and they do landscaping in the summer. They're eligible for these programs. And there's a lot of Vermonters who are independent contractors that would not have been eligible for unemployment, but under this program, they are eligible. So the next question, anyone out there, hit *3.
Thank you for your question. Our next question is from Dave from South Hero. Go ahead, Dave.
Hello. Thanks to all of you for hosting this forum. The federal government is supplementing unemployment insurance generously with a $600 per week stipend. And essentially, it makes it more lucrative for Vermonters who are making less than $53,000 a year to go on unemployment than to stay on their jobs. I'm an employer with slightly over 300 employees. I haven't laid off a single person. I really don't want to. I'm going to do my very best to keep everybody working and earning for their families and provide health insurance. And, I think we're a good employer. We've applied for the SBA loan and expect fully to get that, and it's quite generous. However, the guidelines are kind of hazy, and it says if we fail to keep the same head count, the forgiveness on those loans will be reduced, but they aren't clear on by how much or if they could go away completely if we lost 30% of our employees. So how do we protect those people going on unemployment? We obviously want everyone to be able to support themselves and their families, but also protect employers and not do incredible harm to our economy by incentivizing people not to work. Thank you very much.
Secretary Curley, do you want to take and answer that as best you can?
Yeah, I'll be honest, that's a really tough question that we're grappling with. Generally, under unemployment, from the hat that I used to wear, which was the Department of Labor, I was the commissioner there, so I do have a little bit of understanding of the unemployment insurance program. But under normal times, which I understand we're not right now, if somebody is offered a job and they turn that job down, they may negate their eligibility for the unemployment insurance benefit. So right now, because we're in an emergency situation, I believe that there are some work search requirements that are waived. So it may be a little bit harder to catch those right now in terms of the folks who may turn down, like if an employer has already laid somebody off, for example, and they decide to bring them back and go the route of the payroll protection plan loan, it could cause a little bit of problems. But I think that if you are paying your employees and they quit because they find it more lucrative to go the unemployment insurance plan, I think that there would be some difficulty qualifying for that benefit, and I cannot guarantee that right now because, again, we're in an emergency situation. But under normal times, if your employee chose to leave the job and you were, willing to pay them and continue on, they wouldn't qualify for that.
Thank you. Hit *3 for anyone who wants to ask a question.
Thank you, Dave, for our question. Our next question is from Jane from Hyde Park. Go ahead, Jane.
Hello. First, I'd like to say thanks to our leaders and representatives. We're really fortunate to be in Vermont, I think, and have been ahead of the curve a little bit. My question is about non-traditional businesses and if we are covered. For instance, we have a seasonal business. It's a Vermont company, but we sell Christmas trees in Manhattan. So whether we're going to be able to do that or not this year is really up for grabs. We have about 50 employees. And, of course, we don't know what's going to happen. But even though it's a seasonal business, we make almost all of our income doing this. So right now, even though we still have income from last year, we're a little worried about what's going to happen in the future. We want to be able to, keep our employees too. And I have a second question, which is really quick, is that we are farmers, small farmers as well. We sell mostly poultry products, and we sell them to restaurants. And now we have one employee there. And now we have the restaurants, of course, are closed. So is there any protection for us in these two cases?
Let me try to address the farm question. We were just on the phone with the chairman of the Agriculture Committee. Traditionally, the SBA programs do not apply to farms, but there is a goal for us to have them included so that $10,000 loan that is a grant that would go through the SBA. The intention was to have small farms be included, but it's not at all certain yet. But the goal, I think, on the part of Senator Sanders, Senator Leahy, and I, and others, is to have farms be included, even very small farms. And on your first question, I think you are covered, but I'll turn this over to Darcy or to Lindsay to explicitly answer it as best they can.
This is Darcy from SBA, and you definitely are eligible under the Paycheck Protection Program loan as a farmer. Under the other program, Congressman Welch is right. Currently, it's very limited for more value-added agriculture, so we'd have to get clarification. But if there's going to be a change, as Congressman suggests, we would absolutely welcome that. And we've been in conversations with Farm Service Agency, which is sort of our sister agency for farmers. And they are working together to make sure we communicate better to the farming business community what is available to them. But you are eligible for sure right now for the Paycheck Protection Loan Program.
Thank you, Jane, for your question. Our next question is from Bruce from Fairhaven. Go ahead, Bruce.
Hold on one second.
Hello?
Go ahead, Bruce.
My question my girlfriend gets child support, and the big question is since she's in the system and they're not accepting payments, will she be eligible to get the money, the grant money or the stimulus money, however you want to say it?
Well, she's definitely entitled to her own check. That has nothing to do with what her child support status is. If she makes less than $75,000 a year, then she is entitled to the $1,200 check that would be deposited into her account. And the whole point of these checks is to try to get immediate financial assistance to all Americans whose incomes are below $75,000 or below, and that's the vast majority of Vermonters. And that's hers. And it does not depend on what her child support status is. So I think she's in good shape. Thank you, Lincoln and Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce, for your question. Our next question is from Alexandra from Bellows Falls. Go ahead, Alexandra.
Hi. So my question is, what happens to people who have gone through the 26 weeks of unemployment and have yet to become employed, but may have been on the precipice of becoming employed when all this happened? So are they going to get extended unemployment benefits, or what's going to happen?
There is extended unemployment benefits in this bill. So anyone who's laid off as a result of the coronavirus is eligible for state unemployment and the $600 supplement from the federal government, and that's up to 4 months. So I'm not Secretary Curley, from your days, I would think that person, Alexandra would be eligible, but I don't know if the guidelines in the state have been established yet.
Yes, so I'll caution myself to give a firm or a definite answer on this, but in the press conference yesterday, I heard the labor commissioner say that if you were encroaching upon the 26 weeks, don't worry because the benefit period would be extended. And I thought I heard either 12 weeks or 16 weeks. So hopefully that will be, get you through the hump, over the hump here. And if this goes on longer, maybe those will be extended. But at least if you're coming upon the 26 weeks, you shouldn't expect to be cut off.
Thank you, Alexandra.
Thanks, Alexandra, for your question. Our next question is from Brett. Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me, and thanks for putting this together. So my question originally revolved around the stimulus that was planned for like the Vermont economy and businesses, but I think you all kind of touched on it and some specifics there. So I'll be a little more granular. Since the Vermont economy relies so much on tourism and kind of importing capital for our various tourism seasons, is there anything planned, to do that once, Vermont's open for business again to try to market, anything there? Thank you.
I had a discussion with the chamber and all the tourism folks today. About 160 people were on it, and it's really, really tough on them, as you know, because a lot of the bookings they had have been canceled. There's some real uncertainty as to when we'll be able to start up again. And one of the things they're advocating is that there be significant expenditure on promoting tourism as part of the next step. And frankly, I think that's a totally reasonable and necessary step for us. That is not in this bill, but in the next bill where we're focusing on how do we revive our economy. That would be, I think, a major component of it. So thank you, Brett, for that.
Thank you, Brett, for your question. Our next question is from Ryan from Swanton. Go ahead, Ryan. All right, I guess Ryan isn't there. Our next question is from Kathy from Williamstown. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hi, how are you?
Good, Kathy, go ahead.
All right, thank you for taking my call. I have two questions, actually. One is, do you have to be, because I signed up for unemployment, do you have to be totally unemployed? My hours got cut down to about 10 to 15 hours a week. So my question is, would I still be entitled to the cap, which is the $600, or not? That's one question.
Okay, number one, if your hours are cut back, you are entitled to apply for unemployment, and it would be on a prorated basis. The state of Vermont has had that program, and they're making the rules about having that be coordinated with the $600 from the federal government. But bottom line, if your hours are cut back, you're entitled to unemployment benefits to help you make up the difference and maybe then some.
All right, thank you. Our next question is from...
Let me just remind folks, Lincoln, that hit *3 if you want to get in the queue for questions. *3. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from Tina from Calais. Go ahead, Tina.
Nonprofit organizations are a part of the lifeblood of the state. The question is, what resources are available for small nonprofits, let's say from 3 to 10 employees? And what benefits are available for their employees? Are they treated like the employees of profit organizations, businesses?
Tina, first of all, our nonprofits are absolutely essential. So thank you for bringing that up. And number two, my understanding is that all of these small business programs, in the retention programs, and even the economic injury grant, that $10,000 grant, all those are available to nonprofits as well as to profit corporations. Secretary Carter or Administrator Carter or Secretary Curley, do you want to add on this?
Sure. This is Lindsay Curley. What I would say is if you are trying to keep those folks on payroll and you want to go the payroll protection plan, or you want to go through the economic injury disaster loan route, that's fine. If you're finding that it's not the right path and you need to lay folks off, yes, they are still eligible for unemployment insurance benefits. Nonprofits are eligible for, their employees are eligible for that program as well. So there's a couple routes there, and I know there's probably even more options out there, but we're still learning and getting guidance. I'm sorry to sound like a broken record. I'm still trying to keep directing people to our website, accd.vermont.gov. Because we're going to continue to update it as we have available resources for Vermonters.
Thank you, Lindsay. Next question.
All right, thank you, Tina, for your question. Our next question is from Betty from Guilford. Go ahead, Betty.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, for doing this. This is heartwarming, and it's just so wonderful and so represents the state of Vermont. So I have two questions to ask of you. One is, I know different people, we're struggling down here, especially when people are at home, not being able to access where they live, the internet. So giving out websites and everything doesn't work for certain people. Is there a specific telephone number that they can call and talk to specifically people? And I'm talking for different people that I know that are not necessarily from this country, and so, but they're Americans and they need to have a one-to-one conversation with somebody. So that's my first. And my second one is, I have a great understanding of the culture of people that under the table people who, I do this for you, you do this for me. It's a cash thing. They don't necessarily pay taxes. What is available in our culture right now in our state of Vermont to make sure that these people are going to be taken care of? Thank you.
Let me try to answer part of that. First of all, on the internet, it's a huge challenge for rural Vermont and for rural America to get high-speed internet. We have to have it, and many of us, I know Senator Leahy and Senator Sanders are both absolutely energetic and committed to trying to have in the next infrastructure legislation a final build-out so that you do have the same high-speed internet in Guilford that people have in New York City or Boston. We have to have that high-speed internet, just like after the Depression, we built out electricity to rural America. As far as what phone number you can call, I'll ask Darcy and Lindsay to maybe give those phone numbers. That's number one. Number two, folks who are in the cash economy, if they are on any governmental programs or have filed a tax return or they want to file a tax return for last year, they would, I think, be in a position to get access to the one-time check. And that one-time check is to help all citizens who are just reeling as a result of what has happened. And it also recognizes that if there's money in the pocket of people to help pay bills, and keep body and soul together, that's also good for the economy. Lindsay and Darcy, would you like to give the phone numbers to this to Betty?
Yes. So first of all, you can always call 211 for really anything related to this crisis. If somebody is having trouble with their housing, they're at risk of losing their housing, or honestly, you have an emergency and you need help, please call 211. If you are laid off and you want to call and apply for unemployment insurance. I'll give you a number. I'll read it a couple times. It's 1-877-214-3330. That's 1-877. And I would just, I guess I would start with Erin. I'm guessing that Darcy has a number she can share as well.
Yes, hi. Right now we're teleworking, so I can give you my mobile phone number, and then I've been delegating some to my team, but I'm happy to take their call. That's 802-249-8287. Again, 802-249-8287. And we also have a customer service number for people who have applied already to the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, and that is 800-659-2955. Thank you.
Thanks, Betty, for your question. Our next question is from Pierre from Barrie. Go ahead, Pierre.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for all your hard work during this serious crisis. My question is there any relief for student loans, government loans for parents and students that are having a hard time paying these off?
There's 6 months forbearance on these loans, with so there is some temporary relief where you'll get 6 months temporary relief on the Department of Education loans. That's not enough, maybe. I mean, we've got a whole student loan crisis, but having to keep making those payments during this emergency is too much, obviously. So there is relief in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre, for your question. Our next question is from Kareen. Go ahead, Kareen.
Yes, hi. I am in Woodstock, and my wife and I purchased a bed and breakfast a couple of years ago. And in addition to the financing, we invested a lot of our own savings. And as you probably know, since the middle of March, we've been completely closed. So zero revenues as far as that's concerned. Before asking my question, I'd like to make a couple of acknowledgments. First off, we're very happy to live in Vermont. Love Woodstock. Okay. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge our state senator, Allison Clarkson, and our state representative, Charlie Kimball, for the incredible work that they've been doing working with us in the community here. They're very responsive, extremely helpful. I would also like to acknowledge the Department of Taxes for giving us a break on the Meals and Rooms tax, at least a deferment for now. And then finally, the Department of Labor that has been able to turn things around fairly quickly. They have set up the site for the self-employed, since, you know, my wife and I fall in this category, owning a business. And, you know, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that they're moving fast, and this is great. However, what comes with that is the fact that things are not perfect. For example, I was trying to go through the creation of a profile process, and I got stuck at the checking account validation of the checking account number, and it's just not moving forward. Another example of where we might be facing some issues is from an accounting point of view. It's pretty complex to define what earnings are when you have, for example, depreciation expenses, et cetera. It might give a false impression of what the business has been earning from an accounting point of view versus a cash point of view. So what I'm trying to say is, that's my first question, is there anywhere where self-employed folks can go to perhaps a dedicated email or a dedicated number to ask some of those complicated questions so that the application is filled up the right way? So that's number one. Number two, as self-employed, are the unemployment benefits going to be given both by the state as well as the federal government, which means the $600 a week? Thank you.
Lindsay, maybe you could answer that. First of all, I want to say thank you. You're my neighbor. You're over there in Woodstock, and I'm glad that things were going well until we had this horrible event. But on the specifics of how much unemployment you get, first of all, you do get it. That $600 is available, and I'm going to let Lindsay from her former job talk about the Vermont component of that. But my understanding also is that you'd be eligible for that economic injury disaster loan as a small business. But Lindsay, do you want to see if you can help Kareem out with his question?
Sure. Yes. And again, let me just say how sorry I am for what all you employers and all Vermonters are enduring during this time. And I appreciate you giving a shout out to the Department of Labor for trying to turn around a system that's we've never been able to build things all that quickly in the past, and we've done things overnight now, and it may not be totally perfect, but we're getting there. At any rate, I'm going to bring the idea of a dedicated email specific to self-employed folks who are asking questions to the Department of Labor as a suggestion. I think that is a wonderful suggestion. And as far as the whether, I think the question was is the state and the federal government going to pay the self-employed? I believe that is a yes. Again, the program has never, it's new, it's brand new, so I'm not entirely familiar with it, but I do believe that the state legislature, and I'm glad that you mentioned Senator Clarkson and Representative Kimball, they are great advocates, and so I do believe that it will be both a state and federal, but I think that there'll be more to come as well, I think, as they continue to build that out.
Okay, thank you. Star 3 for anyone
Kareem.
who wants to get in the queue.
All right. Thank you, Corinne, for your question. Our next question is from Eileen from Cambridge. Go ahead, Eileen.
Hello. My question is regarding the $1,200 and then the additional $600. On TV, it said that they thought that the $1,200 payment might be delayed. And then my question is, that's number one. And my question number two is, I realize you have to claim unemployment on your income tax. Now, will we also be claiming that $600 as well? Thank you.
Number one, you get the $1,200. That is a separate check, a separate program, and as long as your income is $75,000 or less, you get that. The hope of Secretary of Treasury is to have those checks out in 2 or 3 weeks, and if it will be the fastest if you do have a direct deposit account. I don't know what the tax treatment is of unemployment. Lindsay, do you know that?
It is a taxable, because it's taxable. Your income is taxable, even on unemployment insurance.
Okay. All right. So that's your answer there, and apparently it's not changed. But thank you, Eileen.
All right. Thank you, Eileen,
Lincoln?
for your question. Our next question is from Steve from Bolton. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi, Peter. I have a couple of questions. One is in regard to Secretary Hurley saying to contact the SBA, which I've done that today on both sides of it. We have a small business in Waterbury, Central Vermont, have a few trucks on the road, 13 employees. We've had to lay half of them off, trying to hire them back. But we called on one of these paragraphs online to the SBA says contact your local bank in regards to this. Well, we contacted both of our banks, and neither one of them have directives as of yet on what to do. So we're trying to figure that out.
Darcy?
Yeah. Darcy, you want to go ahead? First of all, before you do, Darcy, number one, we don't have the guidelines yet. They're in the process of being written. Number two, our small banks are going to be extremely involved and helpful, but they do need the guidelines. So there is some delay there. And by the way, I do want to go back to the previous question about the checks. The checks are going out quickly for anybody who has a direct deposit account. If it's going to be a check, the $1,200 check by mail, there's a delay in that. The Treasury Department is promising us that they'll have a form that people can fill out if they don't have direct deposit to try to speed that up. But Darcy, go ahead. Do you want to finish on this?
Sure. Yeah, Stephen, please feel free to email me. It has been busy, so I apologize if we didn't get immediately right back to you. But my email is darcy.carter@sba.gov, and the banks are in various stages of awareness. They know about the program. Some banks are very, very active with SBA on a regular basis, and some maybe make 1 or 2 loans a year. Some don't use our program at all, so it's a little bit of everything. But they can all be engaged on that program, the PPP program, and you can approach any of them. Most of them have already been pretty excited about it. So the good news is they are still working. They're not closed down. There is an application online for the Paycheck Protection Program that you can take a look at. And I can, if you email me, I can give you the link for that so you can take a look. It's a couple of pages. It's not very long. And they basically know how to make an SBA loan. They just don't know how to code it. Like it's kind of simple things like that in terms of submitting the loan. But they make the credit decision locally. They have that authority. And what they're looking for is just kind of the guidelines for how do they determine the loan amount. Were you in business before the disaster? Things like that they just have to, check through before they can submit it to us.
Thank you. We're, it's amazing how fast this hour has gone, and we're really just on the edge of being out of time, but we have time for one more call. But first, if you didn't get your question, if we didn't get to you, and there's a lot of folks we didn't get to, unfortunately, or if you'd like to make a comment or you'd like to provide feedback, please stay on the line when the call ends, and you'll receive instructions on how you can leave a message, and we will try to get back to you. And I want to give a reminder to visit my website. That's welch.house.gov, and I know Senator Leahy and Senator Sanders would welcome you contacting their websites as well for resources and information on how to get assistance you need during this public health emergency. So, Lincoln, let's take our last question.
Before you do, Peter, can I just step in for a moment?
Yeah, please. Go ahead, Senator.
This is Patrick Leahy. One, I want to thank you. I want to thank Bernie. I want to thank Governor Scott. Everybody's worked so well together. I think this was great, Peter, that you put this on when you called me last night and asked me. I was thrilled to go on. And we all have our websites. I hope everybody will feel free to call. Feel free to call my office, call my staff, call me. We try to field as much as we can. I understand sometimes the problems with the internet. I live in Middlesex, and I have a hard time sometimes getting on. But do keep in touch with us, and that means everybody in the state government, Senator Sanders, myself, Congressman Welch. We don't have party labels. We're all Vermonters, and we worry about Vermont. And if you see something that's not working the way you want it to, make sure we know. But again, thank you, Peter.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Peter,
thank you, Patrick. And Bernie, go ahead.
If I could just add to what Patrick just said. These are incredibly difficult times, and I have absolute confidence that as a state we're going to stick together. As a nation we're going to stick together, and we're going to come out of it. So just thank you again, Peter. I look forward to hosting one like you and Patrick and the governor on as well. There's so much to be discussed, so much information that has to get out, so many ideas that need to be heard. So thank you again for hosting this event.
Well, thank you, Bernie,
right.
and thank you, Patrick. Lincoln, do we have one more question, or have we run out of time?
Yeah, we have one more question, and just one final reminder. If you'd like to receive Peter's newsletter, you can press 1, and we'll add you to our list. Our final question is from Joe from Manchester. Go ahead, Joe.
Hi, Peter. My name's Joe. I was currently on unemployment before this whole thing had taken place. Got laid off of a job of 25 years. Do I still apply for the $600 maximum for unemployment now, or do I have to have been laid off because of the virus?
No, you can sit. I think we had a variation of that question before, Joe. And by the way, that's so hard. I feel bad for you. 25 years on the job and getting laid off. That is so hard. But we think you're eligible for that federal supplement of $600. So whether you have to do a new application or it's automatically included, I'm not sure, but I think it makes sense to contact the unemployment office so that you can get access to that supplemental federal money. But I'm sorry about your layoff before this. So thank you. I think, Lincoln, we're at the end here, and I want to say a couple of things. One, thank you, Senator Leahy, and thank you, Senator Sanders. You know, one of the things that's so special for each of us is we all work for Vermonters, and I think we feel blessed that we've got a job where our job is to try to help Vermonters get access to these programs that are going to make a difference, we hope, getting through this. And second, we're working totally for Vermonters, and we want to. And Governor Scott has a huge responsibility to be making these decisions about our public health. And I think Bernie, Patrick, and I are very appreciative of the decisions he's been making and the team he has working on this. And there's no daylight between any of us in trying to do together what Vermonters need in this crisis. And the other thing, it's just astonishing to me, it always is, how wonderful Vermonters are, even in these difficult circumstances where so often the question is, how can I help? How can I help someone else? So much of Vermont is about doing what can be done for other people, and it's pretty inspiring. So I know I speak for Bernie and Patrick and me in saying thank you, all the Vermonters who participated in this call. Our work is just beginning, and we'll be as available as we possibly can be to work through challenges and issues and be cooperating with the Scott administration to make it possible for Vermonters and all of us to get through this together. Thank you very much.
The Access Live event has ended.
Thanks for joining me this evening. If I didn't get to your question and you'd still like to share your thoughts, please leave a message for me after you hear the tone. Thank you for participating.
If you wish to leave a message, please press 1. Otherwise, you may simply hang up. Goodbye.